Sup, freaks? It's your boy Marty here to introduce this episode of Tales from the Crypt. Matt Odell and I had the immense pleasure of sitting down with Adam Soltys, the developer behind Coinos, coinos.io, the web wallet that has Liquid and Lightning implemented into it. Very fun conversation. Adam's a really cool dude. Great Bitcoiner, under the radar. I think you guys are going to like this. Should let you know this episode is brought to you by our good friends at the Cash App. Do you know about the Cash App? Son, do you know about the Cash App yet? Let me tell you about the Cash App. I'm going to tell my son about the Cash App. I don't know if he can understand me yet, but he's looking at me. So, son, the Cash App, it allows you to stack sats, send sats, sell sats, and receive sats. And you shouldn't be crying at this fact. It's a really cool thing, son, being able to stack sats, send sats, sell sats, and receive sats on the Cash App. And we're saying sats because you can make sats the standard, son. I know you may think that you have to buy a whole Bitcoin, but you don't. You can stack sats. Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million units known as Satoshis or sats. And the Cash App allows you to make sats the standard within their app. And then on top of that, you can dollar cost average in the sats. So if you just want to buy a little bit of Bitcoin, maybe your first communion when you start getting money and stuff like that, you can DCA into the Cash App, allow you to download the app. I don't know if you have a phone by then yet, but we'll think about it. On top of that, if you want to become a young stonk trader, you can stack slivers of stonks too via the Cash App Investing. Cash App Investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. And as always, because this is all connected to your bank account, there's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods. You don't have a bank account yet, son, but maybe one day you will. Actually, probably maybe one day you won't. Maybe Bitcoin will be your bank account. I can only hope for that. I'm working on it. Cash App may be your bank account, though. They offer accounting numbers and routing numbers, so you get your paychecks direct deposited into the app. So go check out the Cash App, and when you do, use the code StackingSats. Help Papa out. You're going to get $10. You're not really helping Papa out. You're helping Owls Lacrosse out when you use the code StackingSats. You get $10, and $10 goes to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Woo! Woo! All right, freaks, enjoy this episode. And son, listen to your father.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty, bringing the mic inside. My camera's not picking up the light. I'm like going in and out here, gentlemen, so I'm sorry for that. But I'm warm and ready for a very interesting conversation about a very cool product that Matt and I talked about in RHR a couple of weeks ago. We've reached out to the developer, and we're sitting here with him now, Adam Soltys, the developer of Coinos, a new web wallet. Adam, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Matt, how are you? Are you on the move right now?
Yo. I am on the move. This Airbnb has horrible Wi-Fi, so I'm using 4G internet. But
This
it's
is why
working. Fingers crossed.
This is why we record locally. Yeah, like I said, we have like a tight hour and 15 minutes here, so I want to get in as much as possible. I was looking at your website, Adam. You're working on a lot of cool things outside of Coinos. We'll definitely get to Coinos, but we were talking about the local internet that you're trying to create in Vancouver. Let's dive into why you're doing that and why it would be beneficial for your neighbors.
Yeah, so I guess I first started getting into the meshnet stuff. I found this subreddit called the Darknet Plan, and a project called CJDNS is an interesting one. But this project is called Althea, and I guess the benefit of having more decentralized meshnet or internet kind of setup or topology for internet is that it's harder to censor. And that's why I got kind of interested in it, because, Bitcoin's great, but what if governments start shutting down the internet and it becomes more difficult to use? So, and internet's obviously a vital infrastructure for so many other things besides just Bitcoin. But it's important to have like a free and stable internet. So the Althea project, it kind of lets you set up your internet in a way that it's easy to share it out with other people who want to share your connection. And you do that by running a firmware on your router. So it'll keep track of the bandwidth that people are using from you. So you can let them use your internet connection, but it'll charge them by the minute or by the gigabyte for how much data they're using. And then it can throttle them if they're not paying. Like, I think you can set your own price, but the default is like 10 cents a gigabyte or something. And so, you got a question, Marty?
No, I was going to say that sounds pretty dope. Is it similar to what's going on with NYC Mesh with the because there's super nodes and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. There's different gateway nodes that have like a backhaul connection to the internet, high-speed connection that they would then people would connect to those to get onto the network. The difference between NYC Mesh is that they're not really doing the crypto payments, so it's not like an incentivized mesh network, I don't think. So with this, it's a little different in that you can earn cryptocurrency if you're running one of those super nodes or gateway nodes, and because that's costly usually, like to have a connection that you're allowed to share and resell. Most people aren't allowed to just sell their home internet, like their ISP would have terms of service that prevents them from doing that. So you have to get like a business connection or a direct connection at like a data center or something, and those can run into the hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. So you want to make sure that if you're going to be spending that much capital to get a connection like that, people are going to be paying you back for it. So this kind of lets you manage that. Like the software on your router will automatically bill people, and like I said, you can set your price per gigabyte, and then it'll just charge them for what they use.
That's pretty sweet. And then it's all hooked up to a business bank account or XPub or...
Yeah, it's all done. Right now they're using, they support like Ethereum and DAI, like the stablecoin, and they're using this network called XDAI. They wanted to be like currency agnostic, so I'd really like to get a like Lightning Network and Bitcoin working for the payments as well.
That would be dope. And it seems like you alluded to the fact that Bitcoin sort of pushed you towards this mesh network a little bit, not the other way around. You weren't into mesh networks and then found Bitcoin.
Yeah, I found Bitcoin first, and then stumbled across this stuff. Like I said, it was the CJDNS project that I came across at some point that kind of turned me on to the idea of having like an alternative network to the internet that's harder to censor.
Yeah. And so I guess what drew you to Bitcoin originally? I guess to go before that then.
Oh yeah. Well, I got into Bitcoin around 2011, and I was working for the Canadian government at the time, and I'm not anymore.
You're actually the second guest to have worked for the Canadian government in the last month.
Really?
There's a lot of you showing up. Mark, I'm going to butcher your last name, Mark. Triar.
Cool.
From a company Snappa, and they invested. They're up in Ottawa, I believe. Could be wrong there. And they invested some of their treasury in Bitcoin.
Nice. Oh yeah, I listened to that. Yeah. Yeah, those guys are cool. Yeah, more companies putting their treasuries into Bitcoin every day now, it seems. It's good.
It's a good trend.
But yeah, so Bitcoin, I found it just, I don't know, I think I might have come across it from a blog post or something. and just checked out the Bitcoin wiki and the Bitcoin talk forums and went down the rabbit hole and got hooked pretty quickly.
Oh yeah. And so I guess we can just jump into Coinos here. Like what prompted you to build this web wallet? Web wallets historically, I mean, they were very popular back in the early days. Many people warn against web wallets due to how vulnerable they can be to phishing attacks and putting your information on the internet, your Satoshis on the internet, more importantly, could put you at risk. But it seems like you built a pretty cool product here and decided to go with a web wallet, and just interested why web wallet particularly.
Yeah, I started off using like the blockchain.info web wallet when I was first getting into things. I mean, well, first I started using Bitcoin Core, but the web wallets are just convenient. Like you don't have to install anything. You don't have to synchronize the blockchain. You don't have to set up your own Lightning channels. You don't have to worry about configuring any settings or anything. You just go to a website and you've got an account. It's ready to go. So
it's so fucking convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient. So there's going to be a trade-off between convenience and security, right? So for people just wanting to do some payments and go to your local coffee shop or whatever that you always hear about, then spending up to $100 or something, like you would keep cash in your wallet. You can have a web wallet for the convenience factor, and then keep your savings and stuff in an offline cold storage.
And what I liked here is that it shows really well on mobile too. So, we have like this issue here where, especially on iPhones, where Apple controls the App Store with an iron fist, and you can have, your spending wallet be Coinos, and you can just easily switch between your desktop or your phone without having to deal with the App Store. Obviously, it is custodial, so it'd behoove us to say not your keys, not your coins. But like Adam said, I mean, I see the place here seems to be like as a spending wallet, a small balance spending wallet. And then the main issue with custodial usually is that it becomes like this massive single point of failure. But the fact that you open source the server side makes it a really cool implication that like anyone can run their own Coinos server through Tor for their friends or family or whatnot. It could just, we could have like, there could be like 1,000 different Coinos servers out there at some point.
Yeah, and I would love to see that. I know you guys have talked a lot about the KYC AML bullshit that we're kind of being subjected to. And in Canada, we had some legislation come in just this past June that now says that anyone who's running a custodial Bitcoin wallet or an exchange has to register with the financial regulator and do all the KYC of your clients and reporting and all that. So it kind of puts up a big barrier for small guys like me who just want to run a little custodial wallet for their friends. Have to kind of go through all that, and that's unfortunate. It kind of puts a chilling effect on that. Now, someone who did want to run their own Coinos server in Canada would have to think about that they could potentially be, have the government coming down on them for that and claiming that they're a money launderer.
So, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but because I wasn't even going to bring that up, because I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, how are you dealing with that considering there's no KYC on Coinos right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn it on, I'm afraid.
Oof.
Which sucks because I really think that a big part of what makes it attractive is the convenience factor. So just being able to go on there with an anonymous account and start sending a little bit of Bitcoin and liquid tokens around. That was like the big draw and like the big use case for it. If I start to have to get people to sign up with their address and like send in their photo ID and their financial statements and proof of like utility bills and all that, then suddenly it's not so easy for someone to just get going with Bitcoin then. So what I'm hoping is that we do see like 1,000 different people running their own little servers on Tor and just taking a stand against those regulations, and they can't stop everyone. So
Boss.
right now, I don't want to be the guy who's sticking his neck out and like the only person running this custodial wallet, because then it's obvious they can come after me, but I'm going to build the tools and build the software so that and make it easy for anyone to do it. So hopefully we can have lots of people doing this.
Yeah, hopefully you suffer the same fate that we did. Have an anonymous person steal your node and throw it behind Tor, and they can operate a good business still. These thieves, they wind up doing that. But it's infuriating though, considering it's actually been a theme and a topic in the Bent on Rabbit Hole Recap a lot in the last 3 weeks, particularly is the KYC AML compliance regulations, and more particularly this week been focusing on the overbearing costs that it pushes on builders and people who want to run services or companies. And it's coming to light that the regulations and the compliance measures that the banking system is taking to be compliant with the regulations that are coming out is doing nothing to stop the flow of money between criminals. I believe something like 0.05% of all the financial activity between criminals was, or I don't want to say all criminals, but particular criminal enterprises was caught by AML procedures, which is, it's completely ineffective, and it just creates regulatory moat around these financial institutions, and worst of all, puts everybody's data on the line, which is insane. Like, imagine you having, would you be more worried about storing everybody's personal information or their sats? Like, are you more comfortable securing their sats than their IDs and all that?
Yeah, exactly. They're both bad, but yeah, the personal information seems even worse than losing just money. I don't know.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, it adds a ton of friction for the actual product.
I mean, there is this like thing where I think under $1,000 you're allowed to service people without having to ID them and stuff. So that's kind of my thinking for now, is I'll just put a limit on, because I don't want to be custodying much more than that anyways for people. So I'll just put some limit in place that if you deposit more than that, I'll just automatically transfer it into a non-custodial wallet. So I can say, you know, I'm not custodying any more than that. So
yeah, then you have to factor in the complexity of the Bitcoin price fluctuations too. Like, what if you put $100 worth of Bitcoin in today and it goes 12x, and now you have $1,200? Like, is the burden on you to then up those limits?
Probably it is. Like, I'll have to check every day, check everyone's balance, and if it's become more than 1,000, then I'll, you know, shave it down and move some of it off to a non-custodial wallet for them. That's the nice thing too, is that Coinos I do let you have non-custodial Bitcoin and liquid wallets in there. So I do have access to like your XPub. So I can generate a new address for you and then take money from the custodial wallet that I'm managing and just move it into a non-custodial one and be sure that you'll be able to access it.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit, because I think it is pretty cool that you can choose whether or not you have a custodial wallet. Like, the user can choose when they're logged into Coinos, they can choose if they create a custodial wallet or they create a non-custodial wallet, and I guess it defaults to custodial in the beginning. A lot of where the magic happens for me, you know, so the freaks who have been listening to the pod for a while know I've been struggling to basically try and find a use case for myself with Liquid. And, you know, we talk a lot about Lightning on the podcast, but we rarely talk about Liquid. And one of the issues is like, you have to have like another separate wallet for Liquid. And what's really cool about what you did with the custodial portion, not the non-custodial portion, but the custodial portion of Coinos, is that it's one combined wallet. Like, you can receive Lightning into it, you can receive on-chain into it, you can receive Liquid into it, and you can send out in any of those methods. So you could presumably receive a Lightning payment and then send it out Liquid with like no friction whatsoever. It's like, I guess you could probably do that for the non-custodial on sending liquid, right? Because you'd basically just do a peg in while you do the send.
Peg-ins take 100 blocks to be confirmed,
so
so it's not really practical to do that.
Yeah, that's the beauty. The beauty is how smooth it is that you can just like pay any liquid invoice.
Yeah, that's another big part of the custodial aspect is the convenience. So being able to go between the different layers, but also just being able to like send a payment to another user on the server, or like give people a voucher that there's like they can just go to a URL and then it creates an account for them on the fly. So you can do all these cool things, and then it alleviates pressure from the network. Like if all this stuff is being done off chain in a custodial database, then all those transactions don't need to be done on chain or on the Lightning Network. Even they can just be done completely offline. And there's even some like privacy implications there, where all that stuff is, if we have all these thousands of custodians and they're all their little private islands of different transactions going on, then yeah, it kind of boosts privacy that way.
Yeah, I mean, the user has to trust the server with some elements of their privacy. I mean, and you know, they'll see the transactions, stuff like that. But if it's going through Tor, they don't have an IP address, and the external privacy guarantees are a huge benefit over a non-custodial wallet when you start to think about it, because none of it's on chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're seeing some potential privacy benefits here, and I guess with the nature of it being a web wallet, but you're able to run many personal servers around the world, how do you view security given the trade-offs that are at play here, and how do you like tighten up security the best you can for the wallet? Is that just lack of interactive code on the front end to reduce phishing attempts, or what's your security mindset when building this?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to, as long as no one can hack the server or meddle with the database records, let's say what everyone's balance is, then it should be secure. So it's sort of like a very traditional security model. Like if anyone who's running a website backed by a database has had to go through this, make sure that you know, you lock down your server so people can't meddle with it. But that's like a problem that every company running a website has already had to deal with. So
yeah, because it's like cloud mining and web wallets have this weird, we'll never go back to them because of how bad they were in the past.
Yeah,
but again, the experience that you've designed here is pretty seamless. Like nearly 2 minutes before we hit record, I sent 10,000 sats to a wallet I just created, and it happened instantly, and I can go spend.
Yeah, it's all about again, like you're not going to use this to put all your savings in, but for a couple $100 for spending and the convenience of it, I think it's a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
And I guess going back to Liquid for a minute, the other cool thing about Liquid is you can issue your own tokens and trade them. So like I do think that tokenizing everything does have some real utility, and Bitcoin's obviously going to be the money, the store of value, but being able to issue tokens to represent like fractional ownership in real world assets and trade them around, that's something that Bitcoin doesn't really have to do. Like why saddle the Bitcoin network with all that kind of transactions, and but having like even tokens for stable coins and stuff is useful, because you can self-custody your stable coins and things. So it makes the potential of like trusting exchanges where if someone wants to put some Canadian dollars into an exchange or something, or US dollars, rather than just holding a balance on the exchange, if they give you a stable coin and then you can self-custody it in your own wallet, then that exchange isn't like the sole point of failure, right? If they got hacked or something, you can still hold your stable coins. So,
but then
being able to do,
you're trusting the stable coin issuer instead of
the
exchange.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm still a little bit skeptical of the token model because it's confusing. Because right now, like, I went to like go create a token within the wallet, and it's crazy how you can easily or issue a new asset. That's what I hit. So I can just create a token,
Marty coin.
Right now, which is pretty cool that you can do that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 easy steps.
Yeah.
On Coinos, like, how would those tokens ever accrue value if I created a Marty coin right now? Or like, what would I need to be doing as the creator of Marty coin to drive value to that?
Well, you could go to the exchange page on Coinos and list your Marty coins for sale in exchange for Bitcoin and see if anyone comes and buys them.
Interesting.
Well, you could use them as like access tokens or something.
Yeah, for ticketing, yeah, like if you want to give out tokens and every token is a ticket to some event or something. There's so many applications for tokens that I think it's pretty cool to make those easy to create and trade.
Yeah, I like the idea of Concert creating like a unique authentication token that you pay for in Bitcoin, and then only you can access that concert.
Well, I mean, the beauty is that you could resell it, right? You could like frictionlessly resell it if you wanted to, instead of having to rely on like scalpers right in front of the event.
Yeah, well, is Live Nation just going to come in and scoop up all the the ticket tokens first?
Well, if Live Nation's involved, I'm sure it's going to be scammy.
That's fascinating.
I want to talk more about Liquid, but not the tokens as much, because I think it's novel. Like, it could be useful, these different assets or whatnot. Stable coins is kind of cool. Like, it shifts the trust model around, and I think like the big thing is basically interoperability. Basically, you can trust someone else with holding your fiat while you're using whatever exchange you want to use. You can split those two trusts up.
Yeah.
But Liquid doesn't get enough play on this podcast. We rarely talk about Liquid, to the point where we had Just on the podcast, and he specializes in Lightning, and I was like panging for some Liquid talk, so I asked him, and he was like, I don't fucking know.
Should I give the high level like Liquid overview?
Yeah, shill us Liquid. Why is Liquid important? Can you give the freaks a shill?
We have, and to put more context into this, I've said many times that I have no use case for Liquid. I see it mainly, at least at this point in time, as a federated sidechain to be used mainly by exchanges and traders on those exchanges to move funds between each other.
Yeah, that's how it was sort of, that's how it's been advertised and sold by Blockstream so far. But I think it does have some benefits for just regular users too. So Liquid is a side chain. It's open source code that runs it. It's called Elements, which is a fork of Bitcoin. And it has the same kind of like security model and stuff as Bitcoin, where you generate your private public key pairs for your addresses, and you can store those offline. And it works pretty much the same as Bitcoin, but there's a few differences in that. First of all, there's no like competitive mining process. It's just run by this federation of different functionaries, which are big exchanges or companies that were selected to run the network. There's 15 of them, and they all control this big multi-sig Bitcoin account, basically, where you need 11 of the 15 of them to sign off on any transactions from that account. Yeah.
Is that MFN growing? Is that federation growing?
Not yet.
What was the thing? Like Wiz is like, he's a signer, or wasn't there an announcement like a few months ago that they added like additional members to the federation or whatever?
So they've added more members to, I guess, the Liquid organization that does the governance, and all those members have access to be able to do payouts. So that means they can take liquid Bitcoin and convert it back into on-chain, like real Bitcoin. Whereas that's like not something that just anyone can do. You need to be able to have the authority to do that. It's granted by the Liquid Federation, but I don't think they've grown the set of the 15 functionaries that actually do like the block creation. And
all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they're working on that.
Limit, right? On multisig, on Bitcoin multisig of 16 signers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's going to be changed in the future, that they're actively trying to make it so that that group of signers can be dynamic, and they can add
I didn't
more.
realize that though.
Just to unpack this a little bit, the trust model of Liquid, you don't need permission to peg into it. You don't need permission to go from Bitcoin to Liquid Bitcoin, but
That's
you need
right.
permission to go from Liquid Bitcoin back to real Bitcoin. And you could get around that a little bit by using like these swap services, but it's not really like a trustless swap. It's just like a shape shift where you like going in between like a centralized swap provider exchange.
That's right. Or you could use Coinos to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Or you could go to Bitfinex. Like there's a bunch of places where you can trade Bitcoins for liquid Bitcoins at 1-to-1. They won't charge a fee or anything. So, or yeah, if you're just wanting to go the one way and peg in, then that's something you can do. But you have to wait for 100 confirmations and kind of have to be running your own like Liquid and Bitcoin full nodes to do that. So it's a bit technical, but it's possible. Like I did that when I was first starting with Liquid. I picked in a bit of Bitcoin just to see how that worked. And then, yeah, your Bitcoin gets locked up into that 11 out of 15 multisig, and they issue you the equivalent amount of liquid Bitcoin. So that goes to your Liquid wallet, and then you can start using that on the Liquid network. So some properties of the Liquid network is like the blocks are faster than Bitcoin. So they're every 1 minute, and there's no like variance. It's every minute no matter what. There's no like it could be 1 minute or it could be 5 minutes. Like with Bitcoin, you don't know, it could be 10 minutes or it could be an hour. So that's nice. It's like blocks happen every minute, and fees are pretty low because there's not as much volume on the network, and all the transactions are confidential, or I think by default they're confidential. So that means that if you go to the Block Explorer and look at a transaction, you can't see the amounts that are being transacted. You can see the addresses that are sending, but you can't necessarily see the amounts. And you can't even be sure that it's what asset it is. So it might have been Bitcoin that was being sent, but it could have been one of these other liquid tokens that like Marty's sending his Marty coins around, and no one can see into that on the Block Explorer. So it's a little bit more private.
You can see the address. You can see the addresses, like address 1 sent money to address 2, but you don't know what they sent and how much they sent.
Yeah, exactly.
So
from what I saw, fees are like locked in at like 0.1 sat per byte. Is there like any kind of situation where they ever go above that? I'd like.
Yeah, they're not locked to that. That's the minimum, and because the blocks are empty, there's no reason to pay more than that. But if the blocks started getting full, then the fees would go up. There would be a fee market on Liquid too. And those fees, I think, they just go to Blockstream. It's like that's their revenue model for running the network and developing the software.
it doesn't get split up amongst the 15 cosigners. Interesting. So what do you think the problem with like I was going to say, I'm looking at Clark Moody's dashboard. It's got 2,600 Bitcoin worth of value tied up in that side chain. again, a lot of people are skeptical of Liquid outside of a few niche use cases. What do you think Liquid needs to prove to people that it's actually something worthwhile and something that will gain adoption? You think it's software like you're providing, just easier access to the network? Do you think it's a better product market fit? Does the market just need to develop? Do traders and exchanges need to experiment with this a little bit more to make other people more comfortable with it?
Yeah, all that. And I think that the ease of issuing tokens and being able to swap them like atomically is one of the biggest use cases. So atomic swaps on the Liquid network are really cool. It means that you can take two different assets like Marty coin and Adam coin, and neither one of us has to, like if we wanted to trade neither one of us has to send first or go through a third-party custodian to be trustless. So like we don't have to find someone to escrow those coins and then release them when we've both sent them in or anything like that. We can create a transaction that swaps both those coins in a single transaction. And that opens up a whole possibility of decentralized exchange where you don't have to trust these exchanges to be custodians to go in and out of different assets like that.
It wouldn't be trust. It'd be trust minimized, right? It obviously wouldn't be trustless.
Well, as long as you're trusting the Liquid network to
Right.
continue functioning for the next couple minutes while you do that transaction.
This explanation has just this reoccurring thought in my head. Like, is Liquid more like, how does Liquid's decentralization compare to something like Ethereum?
It's like Ripple without the shitcoin. Adam, would you agree with that?
Well,
assessment?
Feels like you're able to create ERC20 tokens and what you just described in the atomic swapping of these assets. Isn't that like what Uniswap serves as a purpose for Ethereum?
Yeah, but I don't know. Liquid is being developed by the same kind of brilliant Bitcoin wizards that gave us or have continued to work on Bitcoin, right? So I think it's a better platform than all those other ones. It's cheaper and easier to use. Like you don't have to write a big ERC20 contract with Solidity. And I mean, I'm not that familiar with all the different shitcoin platforms, but I know with Ethereum, I did issue tokens on there just to try it, and it was kind of difficult. With Liquid, it's like trivial, and yeah, these atomic swaps are pretty easy to do too. So,
but like Liquid takes different, like goes for a different trade-off balance than Ethereum at least pretends to on the surface, right? Is it goes Liquid?
Well, let's not focus on what they pretend to do. Let's focus on the actual state.
But what I'm saying is like I forget who we had on the pod. We had someone on the pod at one point who like was a little bit too nice to EOS, and he was like they went very centralized, right? And he appreciated that they went more centralized instead of this like faux decentralization.
It was Joe Looney, and he said he appreciated it because they were just being completely upfront with the inevitability.
That's what Liquid's doing without the shitcoin and the ICO that EOS has, right? So it's like you have some trust in the federation, right? This plurality of signers. So it's not completely trustless. You are trusting them, and as a result, you're able to iterate on it quickly and improve the network quickly. You have solid uptime, and you have low fees, right?
Yeah.
And you're able to keep.
And the fees are paid with Liquid Bitcoin rather than some other like Ethereum or DOS or whatever. So
it contributes to the fee market and overall security of the network.
Yeah, like Bitcoin is the money there.
Yeah. Now where my mind's going is like how much notional value can be created on top of the pegged Bitcoin? Like does the total amount of value of each underlying token that's created equal the amount that's pegged in, or could you hypothetically have more value in the overall tokens than are pegged in? And I don't know if you know the answer to this question. It's just where my mind's going right now.
Well, the value of the tokens is just kind of up to the market. So,
but they have to peg in liquid Bitcoin, peg in the liquid Bitcoin at one point.
Well, on Ethereum, for instance, you have this situation where you could have, we're going to keep talking about Ethereum, where you could have like ERC20 tokens that end up having more value than the security. Like it could incentivize 51% attacks, but because there's more value to take away from that token, that the chain doesn't really know how much value that token has, but the attacker does. But in this case with Liquid, the trust model is completely different. Like you can't 51% attack Liquid. You have to basically compromise the signers.
Yeah, and they've been carefully selected, so they're all geographically distributed. There's no more than 3 functionaries in a single jurisdiction. So that if there's ever like a natural disaster or some of the governments start going after them, they have to get at least 4 of them all together. And because it's 11 out of 15, right? So if 4 of them go offline, it's still okay. So, and all these functionaries are big, like they're Bitcoiners. They're big exchanges and stuff. So they have like an interest in running the network properly and not misbehaving. But the other cool thing is that even if they all did get compromised or something happened and they did start misbehaving or they got shut down, the code for Liquid, like the Elements code, is open source, and like us 3 could start our own Liquid network and have people peg in to get the Tales from the Crypt Bitcoin and issue their own assets and stuff. So like if you wanted to set up your own federation or anything, you can just use that code and do that. So I think building tools and stuff that work with that code is worthwhile because I'm pretty optimistic that the Liquid network is just gonna keep getting bigger and better and more decentralized. I think that's sort of where Blockstream is trying to push it. So
but I mean, but that's kind of like where I feel about Coinos, right? Is that the risk, the main attack vector is obviously that it's a custodial wallet, right? So someone could hit you. You could get regulated. You can have to, be compelled to shut it down or something. Same thing with Liquid, with the federation. It's slightly better trust model because you have to hit a plurality of the signers. But where it really gets interesting on Liquid, and we haven't seen this yet, is if you had 1,000 Liquid networks and they're being run from like pseudo-anonymous signers, and they all had different reputation scores and stuff, and one has been around for like 6-7 years and no one knows who any of the signers are, but they've never done any fuckery.
Yeah.
like that's when it starts to get really interesting, and you can swap between the different chains.
I'm surprised we haven't seen other ones already. Maybe I'll start one.
I think we should. The sooner we see them, the better it is for the original Liquid network. Like I think it makes them more censorship resistant if there's like 500 of them. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, you can just snuff out this one and have an effect.
Yeah, so if any of the freaks listening want to start a federation with me, hit me up afterwards.
It's like makes me incredibly bullish. Like how it seems like they're just like incredibly early for the Liquid network, but maybe it's like if you build it, they will come type situation.
Yeah, well, anything that takes pressure off the main Bitcoin chain is good too, right? Like all the transactions on Liquid can be going on. It just saves us from filling up blocks and putting the fees up on the Bitcoin network.
Yeah,
and it's not as trustless as the Bitcoin network, but for me, like it's trustless enough. Like I know, like with Coinos, I was saying like a couple $100 is maybe the limit people should be putting in, but for the Liquid network, I'd be comfortable putting thousands of dollars on there.
Interesting. And so comparing Liquid and Lightning, which are two second layer situations running in parallel that are both incorporated into Coinos. How do you look at the pros or how do you compare them, and what do you think one does better than the other?
Right. Yeah, there's advantages to both. So Lightning is pretty awesome because you can have instant finality there. Like with Liquid, you still need to wait a minute. Minute's not too long, but it's still a bit annoying. With Lightning, it's like instantly done and it's trustless. But and like the fees are even lower on Lightning. Like they're practically nothing. Like if you have a direct channel between someone, it can be, you can send payments for no fees at all. And even if you're having to go through the Lightning network and go through a couple routing nodes, it's like a lot of them just charge 1 Satoshi for a transaction. So paying like a couple Satoshis maybe to do a Lightning payment. But the one issue with Lightning is it's a bit of a different model in that you have to have your wallet online and watching to make sure that your channel partners aren't misbehaving, and you need to set up those channels. So it's a bit more of an upfront, like you need to be running a hot wallet that you've put some capital into and opened up all these channels. And then you kind of have to manage to make sure that you open channels to the right places so that your payments can get through to where they're trying to go. So all these issues about channel management and liquidity management on the Lightning network, that they're all getting easier and better, and like multi-part payments and stuff is helping. And the more people using the Lightning network, the better it gets. But those are some of the trade-offs. It's a little bit harder to get going, especially like if you want to do it trustlessly on mobile or on the web. You kind of have to be connecting out to like your own Lightning node that you're maybe running on a server somewhere or back at home. It's a bit hard to run like a full Lightning node on your phone or on a website right now.
Yeah. No, but I agree. It feels like things are getting better and improvement is being made slowly but surely. And so I guess what is in the product roadmap for Coinos? How do you see these technologies maturing and your service maturing if you can avoid having to spend too much money on compliance?
I want to build out the wallet, just basic wallet functionality. So being able to do coin selection and being able to let people send to like usernames a bit more easily, and have like some social aspects in there where I can see like, oh, I got a payment from Marty, and then show up in like my recent contacts or something. And focus on like merchant adoption, so letting people use this to take payments in retail settings. And then like getting more privacy features in there, like pay join and coin join stuff. And then building up like the decentralized exchange aspect, so you can list your own tokens and trade them, and make it easy for anyone to like run their own little Bitcoin exchange. And hopefully see a lot more of these custodians popping up and the Uncle Jims of the world running custodial wallets and exchanges.
The ultimate Uncle Jim wallet.
Yeah.
Well, is Uncle Jim the path to sufficient distribution and decentralization? Obviously, that's the ideal that we strive for. Is that obviously best case scenario? The people connecting to Uncle Jim are also running their own nodes, but Uncle Jim exists because they're not comfortable doing that. Is Uncle Jim going to save the world?
Uncle Jim runs the Coinos server, and then his little nieces and nephews are able to connect to it through Tor, and it'll be distributed if we have enough Uncle Jims. Exactly. I just wanted to go back for a second to the Lightning versus Liquid thing. I mean, just to unpack it to its simplest. The thing that hit me, when you don't have to worry about the peg-in or the peg out, or the swap in or the swap out because it's Coinos and because it's custodial. The beauty of the liquid payment versus the Lightning payment is you don't have routing errors. You just will never hit a routing error. And anyone who's tried to spend on Lightning has seen this, where you try and send like a 400,000 sat payment and it doesn't go through, and then you try and send a 300,000 sat payment and it doesn't go through, so then you try a 150 and it goes through, right? Yeah. And you have to like go down or whatnot. With liquid, you just don't have that. So there's something there. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something there in terms of using it as a spending wallet for these like medium capacity amounts, you know, where it's like an amount where if you try and do it on Bitcoin and fees are like at 170 sats per byte because some fucking news came out and everyone's trying to get onto exchanges and all the fees are going up and pricing you out, you have that consistency on liquid where you don't have to deal with the capacity requirements. Yeah, there's that for sure. And the other thing is just the the security model is the same as Bitcoin. So you can generate like a liquid paper wallet if you want, and you've got your keys, you put some money in there and you just keep it offline. It's easier to custody. Like with Lightning wallets, you're basically running a hot wallet. So there's more security considerations for that. Well, our boy 6102 would crucify me if I didn't call you out on that. Is that it's different than Bitcoin in that you are trusting the signers to not fuck with you, but it's a different trade. It's definitely it's nice that you don't need a hot wallet, compared to Lightning, but compared to Bitcoin, it's not really truly cold storage. You can never truly cold store liquid Bitcoin because something could happen to the Federation while you're asleep, and then they're not your keys anymore, or they are your keys, but they're just worthless, right? Yeah. Yeah, but that's unlikely. Especially if the Federation gets big enough. Fair.
Yeah. Why are people so? I mean, people do get hung up on the Federation and liquid. Like there's a lot of liquid haters out there. You think they're just being too obtuse in their hard lines with what they're willing to allocate some trust to. Frankly, I haven't looked that deep into liquid because, again, I've been under the impression that the best use cases are for exchanges and traders, both of which I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I take more just a pragmatic approach. Like you gotta, you know who the Federation is. You know that their incentives would. The incentive for them to mess with it and do something bad, it goes against their incentives. So why would they do that? It would ruin the network for them. So yeah. And then I guess the conversation of sidechains in general has been bubbling up a little bit more. At least I've been noticing in some circles. Like, do you see any other second layer types of solutions coming to market? Do any other sidechain schemes interest you at all? Oh, well, Ruben Thompson and the state chains idea is pretty cool. So that just kind of takes sidechains to an even more trustless level. And passing around private keys, correct, in a state chain type way? Yeah, I don't want to try to explain state chains because I'd have to go and read about them and listen to them to be able to. I haven't explained them to people yet, so it's still a bit fuzzy in my mind. But if you want to go check out Ruben Thompson's stuff on that, it's pretty interesting. So I think like the big thing would be that then you can have. Like with liquid, you get the peg-ins can be done, but peg-outs can't be done right now. And the Federation is it's not dynamic at the moment. But when we see the side chains where you can go both ways and the Federation can grow and change over time, and state chains are actually like a different thing where you can have like trustless custodians that let you move UTXOs
Yeah,
without touching the chain, right? Like that's the
yeah, I think so. I don't want to try to explain it.
chains.
Yeah, go look up state chains, people. They're cool. I just can't explain them right now.
Yeah, and then people drive chains are often talked about, never implemented, if I recall correctly. They're very controversial as well. Yeah, I feel like the whole second layer beyond Lightning Network and Liquid hasn't been explored in earnest. I'm very excited for state chains too, just to learn more about it and see what it brings to the table. But our Lightning and Liquid, just like the very, very tip, the top snowflake on the top of the iceberg. Like, are we not even imagining potential second layer solutions that could be popular in the future?
I'm sure there's other ones out there that no one's thought about yet.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt? Do you have any other second layer solutions that excite you?
Well, I mean, I thought it was funny because Adam used the word pragmatic to explain Liquid, and in my head, that's what I was going to use to explain it if I answered first. So I do agree with that. I think it's a good way of framing it, and I think that's one of the issues that Liquid has from its detractors is that it does take this like pragmatic trade-off approach that has some nuance there in what it provides you and what kind of like what the trust model is, and nuance is fucking impossible on Twitter. So it results in all of these back and forths where people argue it past each other. While with Lightning's almost trying to go for like that perfect, there's no such thing as a perfect trust model, but it's trying to go for this like this perfect balance where you have, permissionless, low fees, instant settlement, as trust minimized as possible. So it's an easier trade-off balance to discuss almost than Liquid, because Liquid does try and just hit like for all practical for like most practical purposes, like it should get the job done, right? But there's all this nuance there.
Yeah. And with Lightning, there's a lot of complexity. Like there's a lot of different attacks and things that the Lightning protocol developers have to be mindful of. And with Liquid, the model it's just a blockchain. So we've already figured out how to do that with Bitcoin. It's just, taking some Bitcoin off the main chain and putting it onto another chain. But there's no there's confidential transactions and the assets and stuff that is innovative and it's different from Bitcoin. But the main innovation has already been done. So it's not as experimental and complicated.
Yeah, with that being said, if you're running L&D, make sure you're updated to the most recent release. Apparently, there's a big bug.
We don't know what the bug is yet.
No, it'll be released on October 20th.
We'll know next RHR. I'll tell you, it's really cool looking at the Block Explorer and not seeing the amounts. That's my non-technical 2 sats right there. That's just pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
I need to experiment with Liquid more.
Go into the Blockstream. Go to the Blockstream.info has a Liquid Explorer that's the same exact interface as the Bitcoin Explorer, and if you click through there on the transactions, you can't tell what assets or what amounts are being sent. It just says confidential.
Yeah, it's dope. And so another stable coins, a lot of people are beginning to talk like, hey, if a layer 2 is to succeed, needs to implement stable coins like en masse. Like we've seen, that's the biggest use case on Ethereum is tokenizing stable coins and sending them throughout the network.
Yeah. Stable coins. Like I issued my own stable coin just the other day on the Liquid network. I put some Canadian dollars in a bank account and issued the same amount of Liquid tokens. And now I can sell those Liquid tokens. People can receive them, custody them themselves without having to trust me. And I just offer to redeem them back to Canadian dollars at par. So if anyone wants to buy some of my Canadian dollar tokens, they can send me some Canadian dollars. I'll put it in the bank account, keep it there, and you're trusting me. But again, it's like the more people that the easier it becomes to do that for like thousands of people to issue their own stable coins, and potentially with multi-sig, you can have like a federation of people who are issuing a stable coin, and they'd all have to be compromised, or a certain threshold of them would have to be compromised for that stable coin to be messed up. So it just gives people the option to be like, well, even if it's like you were saying, Matt, like anonymous people on tour, if they've been running for 6 years and they haven't screwed with things yet, maybe it's okay to trust them with like a few $100s and buy like a few $100s worth of their stable coin.
That's I want to see the anonymous federations, the pseudonymous federations where you have these like web of trust reputation just built up over time. Like that gets really, really crazy in my head pretty quickly. With the fiat stable coins, you do have the issue where like banks are getting involved. Like you have to deal with bank accounts.
You could deal with cash.
Yeah, or you could have like a gold token where like they're kept in warehouses in like Serbia or something, protected by like private guards, and
like we could have a stable coin where you have to do like this drop off at some secret location of cash, and then every day like we like post a photo of like all these bills spread out on the floor, and we're like, this is our auditor, and it just like goes up on tour somewhere, like a photo of like all these bills in a warehouse somewhere.
That's hilarious.
It's like our proof of reserves.
Well, it's crazy like how creative you can get with this. So that could be a way to maybe anonymously DCA into Bitcoin potentially, where you would want to buy Bitcoin and you have like $200 cash, so you put it up in the stablecoin account, issue 200 of these stable coins to be redeemed in Bitcoin on the Liquid network, and you just have that Bitcoin. They have their stable coin, the dollars are in the bank account. You basically receive Bitcoin in a somewhat anonymous fashion. Obviously, they know that they sent you the Bitcoin, but
yeah, well, you'd have to find someone who trusts you that would buy your stable coin off you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, in all these cases, right? You'd have to trust.
Yeah.
To a degree. Mm-hmm.
I mean, in every case.
Yeah.
Of the asset-backed tokens.
Yeah, exactly. You're
trusting the asset issuer, the person who's holding the actual asset.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. What's going on in Canada? It seems like things are getting pretty dire there pretty quickly.
Well, I think in Quebec they're under heavy lockdowns. They're not allowed to go and have private functions, and you can't see like your girlfriend or your boyfriend if you don't live together and stuff. But over here, it's not so bad yet. I'm on the West Coast.
Nice. What? Yeah, but it seems like at least from a financial perspective, the Bank of Canada sold all the gold reserves, printing a bunch of money.
They sold off all their gold around 2000. And I just posted a chart on my Facebook page the other day. The Canadian Central Bank, their asset, their like balance sheet has exploded more than any other country. Like every country in the world, they're printing like crazy, but Canada's like leading the pack by about a factor of 5. So yeah, it's crazy. They've gone off the rails printing money.
But they've just been airdropping money to you guys, right?
Yeah, we get like $2,000 a month, and I grabbed $2,000 off them just to try it because I was like unemployed.
I feel like if you're gonna print, at least give it to the people, Like there's worse ways to print.
Yeah, well, in a sense, it gives it to some of the people, but it's also like when you're printing like crazy and causing that much inflation, it's still really robbing from everyone, like anyone who's got any savings.
And the hack is as soon as they airdrop you the fiat, you just immediately convert it into sats, and then that's how you solve that problem.
Well, yeah, everyone needs to convert all their Canadian dollars into sats ASAP.
Immediately upon receipt. You just as soon as you receive it, you just convert it right away.
Have you felt the effects of inflation? Like, is it noticeable on your grocery list, on your bottom line?
Like in the last year since COVID, you mean, or?
Yeah.
Not yet. not yet, but it's coming. Like it takes a while for that to trickle down to the real economy. But there's definitely been like massive inflation in real estate and stock prices and stuff. Like,
particularly on the west coast of Vancouver, correct? It's Vancouver, similar to New York City. A bunch of rich foreign nationals are just piling capital into it.
Yeah, real estate's gone up like crazy here over the last few decades.
Does Bitcoin fix this? We shall see.
I think it does.
Yeah. So what do you, like, outside of the local internet project and what you're building at Coinos, like what other types of software do you work on? You seem pretty well versed on the economic side too.
That's all I'm focused on right now. Just building up Coinos more.
Oh yeah.
I got a young family now, so don't have a ton of time to do software these days.
Yeah. What's the feedback been so far? Have people been contributing? Have you seen many reviewers come to help you out, or?
Yeah, I've got a lot of good feedback, and people are reporting bugs and pretty stoked on it. But I haven't been putting it out there too much because I still feel like there's a lot of things I want to clean up and tidy up and make sure it's secure. So I'm not that comfortable like taking on tons of people's money on my little server. So
do we blow up your spot at all?
What's that?
Do we blow up your spot at all, mentioning it on RHR?
It definitely brought a few new people to it, but not so much that I couldn't handle it. It's good. It's been running for a couple years now with no issues, so I feel like probably it's time to like start putting it out there and get more people using it and find out whatever flaws it has sooner rather than later. So bring it on. Hopefully I don't have any like severe issues that I'm going to lose everyone's money, but it's better to find out now because I'm planning to like keep going with it, like building it and getting more people using it. So
yeah, just, hey, freaks, just load enough sats to buy a few dime bags from tftc.io/dime-bag. Yeah, I have like $1.50 on it. If you lose 150 cents, I'm not going to be too mad at them.
Yeah.
Marty, install Aqua Wallet on your iPhone and send a liquid transaction from Coinos to Aqua Wallet and report back on RHR on Friday.
Got some homework.
And put some of your Marty coins up for sale.
Will I be labeled a shitcoiner then? Is this max coin all over again?
You'll be labeled a shitcoiner.
Yeah, I don't know if I can risk that. Do you freaks want to buy future equity in my my cash flow? We can create a Marty token. I'm gonna work hard for you. I'm incentivized.
Shitcoiner.
What else is on the top of your mind as it pertains to Bitcoin or the state of the world? What's going on in Canada? What's going on here in the U.S.? What's on your mind, Adam? Anything else you're focused on in the Bitcoin world or the world around it?
No, it always just surprises me how few people have gotten into Bitcoin still, and that it hasn't just taken over the world, and that we are still dealing with tyrannical governments and paying taxes and all that. So I've been, since I found Bitcoin almost 10 years ago, I thought it was just around the corner any day now. Everyone's just going to catch on and switch over, but that still hasn't quite happened yet. So just waiting.
Just playing the waiting game. Yeah. It happens much slower than people expect. But do you think that's good at the end of the day, just having the software getting tested out, or do you think Bitcoin should be pressured and stress tested a bit more than it has been to date? No,
I guess it's been just about right. Like we did have growing pains in 2017, and blocks got full and everything kind of got pushed to its limits then, and then that spurred on like all this second layer innovation in the last couple of years. And I guess that stuff's still not quite ready for prime time yet, so we're probably going at just the right pace. But I like how Bitcoin incentivizes people who do get into it to keep working on it and improve it. Kind of has this self-improving quality where you buy some Bitcoin and they think, well, okay, how can I make this better and easier for people to use and get more people into it? So it's kind of paying all us Bitcoiners to improve itself.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
We plug in machines and write software to make sure Bitcoin keeps producing blocks, keeps its heart beating, metaphorically, and in return we get a sound digital currency that we can distribute in a peer-to-peer fashion. We're going to get Bitcoin heady talk here to end it out. Is Bitcoin a living organism? Is it part of the singularity? Are we currently merging with the machine world?
I think so.
Yeah.
And this, the Satoshi Nakamoto origin story, it's very mystical.
Yeah, what do you think? You think Satoshi's an AI?
Maybe we all are.
Yeah, maybe they are. I don't know.
We're all in the simulation. Well, Matt, do you have anything else you want to wrap up on?
I really enjoyed this. There's something about Coinos that just brought back my like early days of Bitcoin, and it was just I can't put my finger on it, but as soon as I found it, I just got really excited about it. It was just like the lack of friction, just how clean it was. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I really appreciate the work you've done there, and I do hope that 1,000 Coinos servers bloom.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for the work. And maybe, hey, this is going to get me experimenting with Liquid. It makes it more accessible, certainly. So I guess I got some homework now. I have to download Aqua, create Marty tokens, become an official shitcoiner.
Yeah, do it. It's
What
pretty cool, actually. I was very skeptical when I first heard about Liquid and played with it too, but I'm pretty sold on it now.
Marty tokens will be worth 2 Bitcoin one day. Each Marty token worth 2 Bitcoin. You heard it here first.
Now you sound like Richard Hart.
Well, Adam, I want to echo Matt's appreciation for the work that you're putting into Coinos. Freaks, if you haven't checked it out, go to coinos.io. Check this out again. The UI you've created is very sleek. It's very straightforward and intuitive, adding sats to the Lightning wallet at least, and playing around with that. So that UX is the hardest part. Here's to hoping that the Canadian regulators don't fuck you over and throw a money transmission compliance letter at you. So really appreciate you taking some time to come on as well.
Thanks, guys. It was an honor to be here.
All right.
Doing the good work.
Cheers.
Cheers. Peace and love, freaks. Take care.